Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengals fan on most of the major platforms, and I'm joined here with Jake Circus of the Jake Circus podcast, as well as super fans Heath and Riley Goldman. And this is Hooday, and this is the Week 17 preview of Jungle Talk. Here we go. The game everybody had marked on their calendars because we didn't have to play the Bills last year. This is it. This is a huge one. I mean, both teams know they're going to the postseason, but we could literally knock the Bills down to the 3 seed, and we could be 2, which would be, I would take that. So,
we're running out of these episodes. Hopefully, we have So 5 more. That's the goal.
Yeah.
If we end up playing Wild Card Weekend, hopefully we have 4 more after this. But yeah, this is a big one because I think. This has a lot of 2014 Monday Night Football vibes with Bengals Broncos, and then the next year too when McCarron was playing for one of the first round buys, and I think that was the game that AJ Green fumbled and we lost.
Right.
And the rest is history. But no, this has like those end of December, late season vibes. It's good that the Bengals are back in that picture, and they're going to be for years to come.
Yeah, well, this is a big one. I expect a playoff atmosphere. Before I forget, let's take care of some housekeeping. Jake, you do multiple podcasts. Tell them where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, Jake Circus podcast on Spotify. Great episode this week, recapping the games from last week. I actually did a little digging about some of the history of teams who go into the postseason with super long winning streaks like the Bengals might, like
Right.
the Niners, and the Bills are also on a pretty big streak themselves as well. So listen to that episode. Some good nuggets in there. And then gambling episode coming out Saturday. Have a great guest from Bleacher Report. We're going to preview the full NFL slate, the college football playoff games, and then the Monday bowl games as well. So great stuff coming out for me in the future, as this is the best time of year for football.
What was the conclusion
on?
What was the conclusion teams on winning streaks?
Yeah, so there's been 11 teams in NFL history to enter into the postseason on a winning streak of 8 games or more. Only one of them has ever won the Super Bowl. That was the 2003 Patriots, and less than half of them have even won a playoff game. Only 5 teams of the 11 to enter in the postseason on a 8+ game winning streak even won a playoff game. Most of them got first round buys, so they got, they lost in the divisional round. And one of the things that I was looking at as well, does having the bye actually for a really hot team, is having that first round bye affect you at all? Going home, seeing your family for a week when you're really in football mode. But this year, with the extra playoff team only one bye, the Niners aren't going to get it. The Bengals most likely will not. So even if the Bills, if they finish off this winning streak, because they control their own destiny for the 1. But if the Bengals and Niners enter on in these super long winning streaks, they went out, they don't have the bye. So we'll see.
Right. Interesting.
One of your smart guests a couple episodes back brought this issue up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was the last episode. It wasn't a couple episodes back. It was our recap episode. He talked about maybe being spooked about the winning streak. That would be
gotcha. So interesting. I actually didn't catch it. So that's funny that we were on the same page there. But I was curious, and me and my partner who I do my podcast with on Sunday nights, we did a little bit of a rabbit hole. And the 2003 Patriots are the only team to win the Super Bowl when they enter in the postseason, a sizable winning streak of 8 games or more.
Right.
Yeah, when Riley and I were talking to Mark last week, I said something, and I said, I don't ever want to root against us, but I'm a little concerned. I mean, we're 7 in a row and everything else. But the one question I wanted to ask you, and I wasn't certain. You said that we cannot get the first round bye,
well, KC would have to lose to either Denver as a 14-point favorite or Jarrett Stidham next week. So I'm pretty much assuming that either Buffalo or KC, because Buffalo controls their own destiny. They're the 1 seed right now, but they have to play us.
Obviously, this is a Bengals show, but I will tell you that was quite interesting what the Raiders pulled the other day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see the Chiefs losing. So that's why, I mean, we'll take care of our business. And if the Ravens win this week, we still need to win next week. We'll have to win week 18. So we're not, chances of getting to the one is we need KC to help us, and I don't see that happening. So
Either way, next week, and we'll talk about this next week. I do like the spot for us. It really feels like Lamar has quit on Baltimore. I mean, I don't think he might not play again the rest of the year. I mean, it would be it's crazy to say that because like they clinch the playoffs, still playing the playoffs, obviously, but like it just feels like he's kind of quit. So either way, it doesn't seem like he's gonna play this week. So if he's coming back for the first time in a month next week on the road against a team that has had his number in the past, I like the Bengals' chances either way.
I do too.
But it does not seem like he's gonna give it a go on Sunday Night Football this week, which is weird because he was supposed to come back last week and he didn't. And yeah, I think there's a lot of turmoil in Baltimore right now that they're not talking about.
Right. No, they tend to keep Harbaugh's good about keeping his stuff, in house. So that doesn't surprise me. Before I forget, if you don't subscribe, please subscribe. It's all we ask. This is a show by fans for fans. So please support us. Hit the thumbs up on the video and subscribe and hit the bell for the alert. So let's get right into it.
Mark, sorry to interrupt real quick. Jake, I think you need to turn your volume up just a little bit more, I think. It's a little faint. I can hear you, but not great.
Cool.
This is an interesting week, obviously, because you got the Rose Bowl, for us folks out here in Los Angeles, only a couple hours before kickoff back in Cincinnati. So Riley and I are going to head off to the game, but we got to have to hopefully Utah blowout, and we'll get out of there early and get home to see the Who Day.
That's the plan. I like Utah in that game myself, so I've already got bets down on that. So hopefully you only missed the beginning of the game. Before I forget, I want to get into. Did anybody watch Zach Taylor's presser today?
I did.
Okay, so I caught his presser. He talked about them having a plan for. Obviously, earlier in the week, he put to bed the rumors about Whitworth coming out of retirement, which would have been. I didn't think about this, and then somebody on Twitter reminded me. The Rams still have the rights. We would have to clear waivers. It would never get to us if he did come out and hit the waiver wire, and we can't work out a trade because it's past the trade deadline. So it's not like we can give the Rams a 6th or 7th rounder and take Witt and do all that. So it's not going to happen. I mean, if it does, it's not going to be this year. So
I saw that and I was like, this is no way. This is not real. Like I cannot believe people are talking about this. And
hey,
like the Bengals have confidence in Isaiah Prince and Hakeem Jennings.
Yeah, and that's exactly.
I mean, they trotted these guys out. Like they trotted these guys out for the Super Bowl last year. Like, what do you think they're actually going to do? Like, sign someone off the street? No, they were comfortable with them in the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
And obviously brought in a better replacement, and he's hurt. But next man up, it happens.
Right. Well, so it did. And that's
for Collins, and it was not a great year for him, but it was great in the run game. I'm thinking hopefully a healthy offseason after surgery. He comes back like himself. He's only like 28, so he's really still in his prime. And the Bengals signed him for 2 years, right? So we have him for one more year.
Yeah, and you know what?
Deal. You know what that deal was? Riley, but I thought it was longer than that.
Yeah, I think it was too, but we also, when we signed Kappa and Karros, we also got in Kappa, we got a guy who's like in his late 20s. So those were two great signings because those guys can literally be here for years to come, and that's why I like that so much.
Riley said 3.
Okay, 3.
Yeah, Collins is 3. Kappa was 3. I think I'll say this. I think Alex Kappa is the best offensive player they've signed in free agency in my lifetime. Like I was going back and looking at it, and I don't think they've signed. Like he's been awesome. I mean, the things he does in the run game, being able to run out there and use his athleticism, and he hasn't missed. I don't think he's missed like a single snap all year. I mean, the guy's just been so versatile, so durable. He's awesome. And Karras too has been all 3 of them are really good. And the rookie.
I'm curious. While Mark calls us super fans, you two really are super fans. I'm curious. I'm not a huge fan of Jonah Williams on that left side, and I'm just curious. Do you guys see the same thing I do? I mean, I'd love to support him, and I know was a top draft pick out of Alabama, but I'm just not seeing premier talent on the left side like a lot of other elite left tackles.
Yeah, I mean, so they have him for another year because they picked up the option as a
Right.
first round pick. So his 5th year will be next year. So they'll make a decision on whether or not to bring him back. It does seem like they're going to need to address left tackle in the future. I don't know if Jonah is really the guy. He's gone through like a lot of mechanical changes the last couple years, but he's played hurt a couple of times. I think he's a fine left tackle. He's certainly above average,
Right.
but definitely not the staple Alabama, blue collar guy that they thought of when they took him 9th overall, or I think it was 11th overall.
11th, I
Seems
think,
like
yeah.
ages ago. He missed his whole rookie year and has been Joe Burrow's blindside protector his whole career. And I think he's done a good job. I mean, his pressure numbers have always been solid. His efficiency numbers have been okay, and I think this year he's working on some new mechanics as is everybody. As the whole offensive line next to him is brand new, and we saw that at the beginning of the year when he was really struggling. Volson was new, Karras was new, Kappa was new, obviously Collins was new. Gunnar was the only returning guy.
Yes.
That's not easy to do. So respect to him for figuring it out and getting better as the year has gone on. But it's the NFL. Things are constantly changing. No one's job is safe long term.
Well, I'd say give it another year and let's see what another year under Pollock will do for him, and we'll make a decision next year. I don't see him as the elite level, but yeah, he's a very serviceable tackle, and obviously we wouldn't pay him elite tackle money, but we don't have anybody better in terms of, if we draft, we have to groom. And we're not going to be getting one of the premier tackles because now we're drafting at the back of the rounds now. So, we're not going to be there to draft 8th or 9th unless we trade up. And we historically don't move around the board a whole lot. So
it's the second most important position on the field. So if they like him, they'll give him the money he's going to get on the open market. And it seems like maybe they franchise tag him after
buy another year,
maybe 2 more years. But I think they like Jonah. I think we like Jonah. It's just a little disappointing because he missed his whole rookie year and then never really was ever elite, but he's never been bad. Joe Burrow has been protected. The blind side's been protected, especially this year, very well on this winning streak. And Jonah's a big part of that. Jonah can run. He's athletic. He's smart. Yeah, I think Jonah's fine. That's not really an issue that I'm really concerned about.
Let me get through and finish the rest of the Zach's presser. So he spoke exactly what you said. Adeniji and Prince, next man up. We have these guys. Pollock's worked with them, and just expressed, that's where we're headed. He has high expectations for the fans this week. Expects them to be the 12th man. He says it's been electric. This is a playoff atmosphere. I really expect the jungle to be rocking. Monday nights, our night games have been well received, in town. And he says the team's focused on Monday night, and Hurst looks good. He said he's had. Now, bear in mind when you're looking at the injury report, and that's why I don't want to put a whole lot of weight on it. We're a day early because we're playing Monday. This is really Wednesday's practice, not Thursday's practice. So we'll know more tomorrow and Friday, but he said Hurst looks good. And then just talked about the energy that Hayden Hurst brings to the team, that he's going to be welcome back. I mean, they miss him. They said just when he makes a simple catch, he charges up the team. You all see that when he's on the field playing. So and I think Burrow misses him. I think that's been a big thing. Burrow's looked for him on key third downs. Hurst has been there to make the catch or to get us into a second and short on first down when they're locked in on Chase or trying to shut down the run. Hurst has been there for big catches. So I really think that we've missed him in the last few weeks. So there's
no doubt there. Hurst has been a huge security blanket in short yard situations. That's like the Bengals are kind of running the modern West Coast offense, and the tight end is a big piece of that over the middle, and that's been a big void. So it's good to get Hurst back because Bills have a very good tight end themselves too. So it'll certainly be a nice battle between the two.
Right. And the last thing on piece of news was just, Burrow can break Drew Brees' single season completion record through 17 games. We have 18 and Brees' was through 17. So, but we have an opportunity to do that this week. So that's all I have in the news. Jake, did you have anything to add?
In terms of news, well, that's funny you mentioned about records. I think Joe Burrow, it might be one more game where he gets to 1,500 passing attempts. That's when you're eligible for all-time leaderboards. If he's not already there, he can spike his next like 15 passes and still be the all-time NFL leader in completion percentage once he gets to 1,500. That's how much of a gap that
Wow.
he has on second place.
Yeah.
Talk about a first 3 years as a starter.
Yeah. Oh, that's all. It doesn't surprise me. All right, well, let's get into previewing this game. Obviously the top thing is losing Collins. I have concerns about Adeniji and Prince holding up to what is it, Rousseau and Shaq Lawson. I mean, these guys, Adeniji is a little undersized, so you're talking about larger defensive ends. So I don't know who he's matched up against. I mean, Adeniji has good footwork and mechanics thanks to Frank Pollock, but he's still an undersized guy. So that concerns me.
The whole defensive line concerns me, really. This is a battle that I don't think the Bengals have had all year, because normally when they play the Browns, they play the Steelers, you target one guy. When you're playing Baltimore, it's a little different, more similar to Buffalo because they have a lot of guys. With Buffalo, it's on steroids. And we're very, very fortunate that Von Miller is out of this game. It's kind of affected Buffalo a little bit going into the playoffs. They've kind of figured it out. They go 6 or 7 deep. They have 3 or 4 guys on the edge. They go Rousseau, Epinesa, Lawson. And then they get on the inside. You have Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones. I mean, these guys are Pro Bowl caliber players, and they have 4 or 5 of them. So, tackles are going to be, walking on eggshells, and the interior guys are going to try their best to make sure that, the gaps are filled and Joe Burrow doesn't have any instant gap pressure, because that was what affected them in the playoffs last year against Tennessee and the Rams. So this is a matchup that I don't think the Bengals have really had this year in just terms of all of the athletes that Buffalo has to attack the quarterback.
Yeah.
What I think is really
go ahead.
What I think is really nice, though, is that you've got Hurst back, obviously, as we just talked about. Hopefully he holds up. And then what you can do is you can use one of the backs as the chip and everything else, and you don't have to worry about them rolling out and catching those swing passes, because let's be honest, P. Ryan and Nixon have been huge in the pass game,
Sure.
for the safety valve. And at least and then you put Irwin in there and you've got another receiver. I mean, I think we, that's one of the things we may have to do is just chip and help from the backs.
And if we're talking about in the secondary, it looks like Jordan Poyer's dealing with a knee injury right now. So who knows if he'll play, if he'll be fully healthy when he plays, and he's their free safety, he's their interception leader. So if we don't have to deal with him just ball hawking in the back, then we can get those passes out quicker, don't need as much time for Burrow in the backfield.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling he's going to play, because they reported it in the same way last week. He did play last week, but he played sparingly. He only had 1 tackle. So, they only needed him as they used him. He didn't play full time, but I suspect we're going to see him this week. So, like I said, the injury report is basically a day early. So, we're going to know more tomorrow and Friday because of the Monday game. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. But I always go into it assuming he's going to play, but yeah, it would be a big thing if he wasn't. I'm not rooting for anybody to be injured, but yeah,
we'll see tomorrow with Poyer. I mean, this is a secondary that is without Micah Hyde. They've been without him the whole year with a neck injury. Tre'Davious White has not really felt like himself, but he's still a Pro Bowl, All-Pro corner. We're kind of waiting for him to get back to himself, and maybe he shuts down Jamar Chase, and then we're all sad. But I don't think that's happened. But no, this Buffalo defense has certain definitive ways where you can beat them, and this is not the Bills' defense of last year. I think they're really good, but losing Von Miller just really
it hurt them a lot.
Them so much, and we've seen that. Like I thought the Bears did an okay job of really stressing the outside and putting pressure where the Bills are weak, and the Bengals have way better players than the Bears have, and it's going to come to a point where you can't defend all these players, and I think we're in the recipe for a shootout here on Monday night.
Yeah,
I've been saying it all year. When will we see an elite T. Higgins? And I will tell you, he stepped up last game, and you can see that he has the ability to be a number 1. Now, he's a 1B on this team, I think. He obviously had to chase, but it was really nice to see him play big last week, and he did.
Yeah, well, both of these teams, one of the things that Zach stressed in his press conference today is that both these teams are loaded. And on the defensive side, both these teams play as a unit. So they'll lose a piece here, they'll lose a piece there, but they're fast, they play well. And he said they're a lot like us when he was talking about the Bills defense today. They're top 10 defense and they're number 2 scoring defense. So I think this is as evenly matched a game as you're going to see. Both teams are loaded with weapons, and both teams can put up points, and both defenses play fast and as a team, as a whole unit. So
that's kind of what the one thing that I kind of wanted to bring to the show and talk about how even these two teams really are.
Yeah.
We can talk about the playmakers. We can talk about the offensive line, who, neither offensive line has star talent, but they're good. They've protected their star quarterbacks. Both teams have guys that can get to the quarterback. Both teams have guys that can back down passes, make clutch tackles. Both defensive coordinators are very good. Lou Anarumo, Leslie Frazier. But it's going to come down to the quarterbacks. I mean, this game is going to come down to one of the two guys making more plays in the fourth quarter. That's just how it goes with these matchups. I could see either team maybe winning by double digits if one team really, really just drops an egg and lays an egg or drops a donut. But it's going to come down to one of the two quarterbacks. These two teams are very even. Every public power rating model that I have ever looked at has these two teams dead even. That's just how it is. And I think the odds that we play them again are higher than the odds that we don't play them again, in the middle of January. So it's these two teams are this is a team that had the best odds to win the Super Bowl preseason, and they didn't even make it there last year. That's how good, Vegas,
right,
everyone thought they were, and they are really good. Haven't really gotten that out of them since their really hot start. They've been playing roller coaster ball. Josh Allen, I'm going to say this. I love Josh Allen. I think he's really good. But the turnovers in the red zone, they're going to get to him eventually.
Right.
They're going to get to him.
Well, and I was
an important question. What's the line, boys?
Well, wait, we're not done. We're not done previewing, though. So let's talk about a couple of things that he wants to jump straight to the score predictions. One of the things I wanted to do was I looked at the Buffalo losses. And if you look at them, they lost to Miami early on, third week of the season. They lost to the Jets, right after their bye week. Both of them, 3 close games, 21-19, 2017. In those games, the Bills helped their opponents. They turned, like Jake said, they turned the ball over in the red zone. They committed key penalties. I mean, Buffalo, you got to make them that kind of team. You have to, you have to make it small ball and make them that kind of team to beat them. If you get into a shootout, then this is a coin flip game. It really is. If we're going to get into who has the ball last, if it's going to look like the KC Buffalo playoff game of last year, it's like, okay, who has the ball last? But if you want to beat them in a down and dirty game, you gotta make them. You gotta force some turnovers, get some penalties. That's how they've lost their games. When you look at their losses, only the Minnesota game is a high scoring game, 33-30.
Josh Allen is a roller coaster quarterback, and I think if you actually dive into it, he's not a Mahomes. He's not that there's 5 guys that are in the same tier, but like Josh Allen is closer to Burrow than he is to Mahomes. As much good as there is, and everyone says, "Oh, only Josh Allen does this." Then he'll try to just run 50 yards out of the pocket and flip it to a running back and overthrow him by 5 yards, and it's right into a defensive back's hands. And everyone's like, what the fuck, man? Like, why would you do that? And, there's a lot of good with Josh Allen, also a lot of bad. It's giveth and taketh. But the Bengals have to force him to make those mistakes. And they've done that with Mahomes. They've done that with a lot of good quarterbacks the last couple of years, on these runs that they've had. Now on the super long winning streak, and it's a big challenge because you have to pay attention to him for 8 to 10 seconds on every time he touches the ball, because anytime he touches the ball, the play can extend for X amount of seconds and just gas the defense, and the offense has to get long drives. Like, if they hold the ball for a good amount, keep that defense off the field, keep them rested, which they didn't do. They had there's been some occasions where the offense just constantly was going 3 and out, and the defense was gassed, and they were constantly just saving their asses. But long drives, I would say third and longs are keys for the Bengals in this game.
Yeah.
I was watching ESPN this morning before I got out of bed to go work, and they were talking about who's got the most pressure on him, and they were talking about Josh Allen, just in terms of the guaranteed contract and, for a Super Bowl win. And it's, that pressure sometimes can take its toll on some players.
Yeah, I mean, this time next year, that'll be Burrow. He'll have that big time contract this time next year. But yeah, I mean, it's the mold of the NFL. You got to pay the quarterbacks, and all these guys are getting bajillions of dollars, and only one of them can win the Super Bowl at the end of the year.
Yep.
One of the things that we'll talk about, I don't want to go into it now, but I want to make a mental note of it. We can come back and circle back on it later. The teams that are giving these types of large contracts are not as good as they were previously. And, Mahomes does not have as much talent around him once he got his contract. You look at Russ Wilson. I mean, once you give that 34, 35, 40, $45 million, it takes its toll on trying to put together a full roster. It's something we'll talk about another day. I think it's important to talk about.
Yeah, it's why it's so hard to win in the league long term. I mean, what the Patriots did for 20 years will never, ever be replicated. It's not possible. I mean, it's just so eye-opening. And even Brady was taking pay cuts, which will never happen ever again.
Right.
Because of how much money is in the league, and it just keeps getting more valuable every single year exponentially. But that's just why it's so hard to win long term. It's you go with the punches. You have the quarterback, and as long as you have this quarterback and a couple of other really good players that you keep them, it doesn't matter who else you have. You'll be in contention every single year.
Right. Let's keep that core together. I always look at the Cowboy model with Irvin, Smith, and Aikman, and you keep that core together. And I mean, they won 4 Super Bowls, so. All right. So now, Heath, we'll do the score predictions. Would you like to lead off? I know you're not the gambling person that we are.
Riley actually looks at the numbers more than I do. I got to be honest with you. I don't love. I like my money more than I like gambling. So I don't gamble.
Okay. So are we going to get a prediction out of Riley, or are we going to get a Goldman prediction here? That's what I'm asking. Are you going to give us one or no?
Let's go to Jake first, and I'll get one together.
All right, Jake, you want to go or you want me to go? I think I went first last time. You go.
Okay, I'll go first this time. I think it's crazy because we pick the Bengals every week, but they don't lose. So I kind of feel shitty keeping such a homer picking them every week. But I think we're better than the Bills. I really do. This is a game that's at home. I mean, if we have to go to Buffalo in 4 weeks, I'm gonna find a really hard time picking us. But they have to come here, or not here, but they have to come to Cincinnati, and I think the crowd is gonna be up for it. I think the Bengals start fast. I have 34-31 Bengals.
Okay. All right. I actually have a similar score, but I have 30-26. And I think we're going to both teams. I read a lot of the fantasy stuff, not to because for fantasy football, but it gives me a lot of over-unders. What's the projection on quarterbacks? Both of these teams project out for 3 touchdowns. I mean, they're so similar on output that, I mean, I obviously like the over, but I just see, and it's going to be a turnover penalty. Something big late's going to change it. But I like I said, I've got this as a very close game and a high scoring game. I'm hoping we can run the ball and keep the Bills on the sideline. And and I'm hoping the energy is electric. The Bills have had, let's see, I'm trying to see how many of their losses were road losses. The first Miami loss is a road loss. First Jet loss is a road loss. So the only home loss was Minnesota last minute at the end of the game. So
what's the weather expected? Do we know? Has anybody bothered to look?
Right now, it's supposed to be okay. Weather should not be an issue. So
unlike Buffalo.
Unlike Buffalo. So hey, it works against them too.
All right. I think I'm gonna go with a 30-24 win for the Bengals. I feel like we're going to get a late score to just open up the gap a little more. I know a lot of the games have been close for both teams, at least when it's good defenses competing against each other. But I think it's a close game. We're keeping the ball. or late turnover that they're trying to come down and score again. And I think it'll be a little bigger than one field goal. So I'm going 30-24.
I actually have this is a personal side thing, but I have a bet on Burrow to win MVP. And I would very much like to cash that bet. I got 11-1, $100 down. I think this is the game that separates him. I mean, if he were to beat Mahomes and Allen in the regular season, and he gets his team into the 2 seed, how do you not have him over those two guys for MVP? I don't.
Hey, let's go back to that little nugget.
Let's
go back to that little nugget that Jake gave us in the beginning here on this long win streak. I mean, I wouldn't, as much as I hate to say it, I would love the game to go all the way down to the end and lose by 1 point or something, and not have to worry about Baltimore next week, because I want to smack
this. No, it's too important, because you have to think ahead.
Yeah,
and this game is going to decide decide whether or not you have to travel or not for the divisional round.
Yeah, this gets us
not still thinking way too ahead, but if they are fortunate enough to win one playoff game, and it would be very nice to have to not go on the road to Buffalo.
Here's the question: Is Jake starting to put Joe Burrow in that Tom Brady world? That he's the one that did it the time.
Well, Tom Brady never had to go into Buffalo and win a playoff game. I mean, yes, he's had to go into some pretty bad environments, but not even Tom Brady. I mean, the Buffalo Bills never made the playoffs ever.
Right.
The Patriots were good. But
yeah.
All right. Last
I also
question.
have
I would like to win this game. I would like to secure the 2 seed, and that gives us that second. We would only have to go on the road to Kansas City for the AFC Championship. So it's no brainer.
Hey, real quick before we close out here, Mark, Jake, how upset was Tracy last week? It was getting close there for a while.
It was a weird vibe, because that whole game I was we're not going to lose. I mean, we've been dominating this game for 50 minutes, but there's no way we lose. And then even when Chase fumbles, I'm like, we're still not going to lose. And then I think that we had a dumb penalty, and then it's 1st and goal, and I'm like, well, shit. So she wasn't even watching. She was like, well, you better be nice to your brother, while we were up 40 points. And I'm like, shut up.
Right.
And then they come back, and
get the Von.
It's a good thing I was on the recap, because I was a little flustered and a little pissed off after kind of the reactions to Twitter and not accepting the fact that the Bengals completely dominated that game for the entirety of it.
Yeah. It took a fluke bounce pass to catch it.
I mean, every high variance play went the Patriots' way for 25 straight minutes coming out of halftime, and it was so annoying.
Yes.
Brady leans with Tracy for football?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's big Patriots.
So, all right. Well, please check out. We will be back right after the game. Heath, I guess we'll wherever you are, if you get home from the Rose Bowl, we'll do the recap. Jake, please, if you're available, join us. Are you going to be here on the West Coast? Or are you back in?
I'll be here on the West Coast, but I don't know where I'm watching the game yet, so I'll get back to you on it.
All right, so let me know. But we will put up our recap right after the game. Please check out the Jake Circus podcast, and with that, this is a big game Monday night. Let's bring it home. I'm going to say, Hoo-day, everybody, Hoo-day, and have a happy and safe New Year's. Take care.
Absolutely.